is not with us, but he will be back soon. Not a whole lot of news, but we have a bunch of Marvel news updates that we're going to be talking about today. So feel free to jump in the comments with some questions, concerns, things you want to talk about, and we will get to you as we go. Let's get started. Okay. Hey there, Riley. How you doing? Or sorry, how you doing, Matt?
I'm good. How are you today, Josh?
I'm doing all right. I still have Riley in my heart here, apparently, trying to talk to him. Yeah, I'm doing good. We got a bunch of Marvel news. It's really all we've got today. It hasn't been a very news-centric week, which has been kind of the norm for the entertainment industry as of late, sadly. But why don't we go ahead and jump into the first thing we got, which was something people have been looking forward to and anticipating, and that is Deadpool news. And that is that Deadpool supposedly is R-rated in the MCU. What do you think about that?
I never really had any doubts about that. You know, Kevin Feige, I don't think it's going out on a limb to say he's a smart guy. He knows what he had with the Deadpool property, with what Ryan Reynolds was able to do with it over at Fox. But it's nice to hear it confirmed, just
right.
Clarified from his mouth. But I mean, he knows it's a hit. It can make close to $1 billion on its own, even with the R rating. It's got the built-in audience. He's not starting a franchise fresh where he's trying to bring in, young teenagers or anything like that. He knows that the people who watch the first two are going to watch the next one. And like I said, never really was in question in my mind. But again, it's nice to just kind of check that one off the list, that we know, okay, that's good, moving on.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I had some doubts. Like I thought the same thing, like that it's so good they can't just ignore it. I was thinking it, but at the same time, I was like, it's Disney. They've never done anything R-rated, and even their PG-13 stuff it's almost like it's a safe PG-13. It's comic book action stuff. So I was hesitant. I didn't know if it was going to happen, but this news broke. Looks like from Collider, who they had a meeting with Kevin Feige, and he said that it's for sure going to happen. It will be R-rated. It's in the MCU, so it's not just going to be a new Deadpool movie with a couple jokes about the MCU. It will be linked to it, and the sad thing is, it's not even going to start filming until next year, 2022.
Yeah.
So they're working on a script right now. It says, but it's a while out.
Yeah, and obviously, as is kind of the recurring theme of our episodes here, is they're just delays.
Oh yeah.
And maybe this one wouldn't have been out for another year or two anyway, depending on what their plans were with the MCU and the phase 4, 5, 6, and so on. But it's probably affected by COVID to some degree, like everything is these days. But it's nice to know that it's still nice to know that it's coming, even if it's not coming right away, that it's still in the pipeline.
Yeah, and I think more people will even be coming to see it knowing that it's linked to the MCU. It's like something new. It's something people didn't think was going to happen. It's like when Spider-Man came into the MCU. It was something people really wanted, but I didn't think it was going to happen because of the Sony rights and everything else. I didn't think there was any way they were going to, make a deal. But so yeah, it's exciting. Let's see. Donovan here says he's waiting for Morbius. Well, that's actually going to take us into our next topic. Sorry, Donovan. Sony's Morbius has been delayed, which, like you just said, Matt, is kind of the trend. Everything gets delayed.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the HBO, Warner's movies that have that with the HBO Max theater co-releasing, anything that's not going that route is still up in the air. A few theaters they're opening up again here in Minnesota. I got a few movies coming out this weekend, but it's going to be kind of a week by week thing for most of the studios. And I wasn't super excited for Morbius. It's a superhero movie, so I was for sure going to watch it, as soon as it came out. But it didn't do a lot for me with the trailers. It was kind of cool that they had Michael Keaton there in the show up at the end, that they're going to be a little crossover. I guess the one thing then is if this affects Venom's planned release date, if they were going to be crossing over or in this, in the same universe or anything like that. I think that's slated for end of June, if I have that date right. And I would think if they were directly connected, they would have made that announcement at the same time.
Yeah.
Morbius went from March to October, so it's skipping over Venom. But still, that if there were any hints or Easter eggs at Morbius, appearance later on, will they have to rethink the Venom date as well?
Right. I didn't think about that because you're right. It's going from being before Venom to after Venom. So if they do link up and the plot line is, essential that we see Morbius first, that would change things. But just like you, the trailer didn't do anything for me. I was not super excited. Like, I was excited because it's cool to see Morbius, on screen. And I like Jared Leto. I know a lot of people complain about him. I didn't like his Joker, but I like Jared Leto as an actor. But this didn't do anything for me. I was more excited for Venom 2, and I didn't even like Venom. I'm just, I'm excited to see Woody Harrelson being in it as Carnage and everything. But
yeah, it'll be interesting. Like you said, Venom. I love the Venom character, and I love the Carnage character. So that's what's going to draw me in, as long as those movies keep going as aggressively average as I thought the first one was.
They got the look of
Venom
right. Yeah, they got the look of Venom right. And that was the number one thing after seeing Topher Grace, who was, I like him, but horribly miscast in that role.
That was
a mess. And then the way they made the actual Venom look just looked like Spider-Man. He wasn't this big hulking beast that he's supposed to be. So they definitely got that right in Venom. But Tom Hardy was awful in that movie, I thought. And Tom Hardy's an amazing actor, but I was like, what is going on here? Everybody was so bad in it.
Yeah, I thought he was very just kind of all over the board. There'd be some scenes where, like, oh yeah, that's the Tom Hardy I know. And then there'd be some parts where it's just like, dude, what is even happening right now?
Yeah, and I don't think it was that he was bad because he doesn't know how to act. Obviously, he knows how to act. It was just, I think it was just the weird choices that he made to take the character that just felt so weird to me. And I just, all around, I thought everything that was going on in it was a mess. But still, I'm excited to see Woody Harrelson as Carnage. I think he was an odd choice to cast, but I'm excited for it. I think he'll do. I think he can pull off that crazy role pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Woody's obviously a very good actor, and I don't know, unless I'm missing something obvious, I don't know that I have any sort of role in mind of his where obviously someone like Carnage, who we've played before, but kind of an unhinged guy like that. Not sure if he has that, if he's done any role like that before, but I don't really doubt that he can't handle that aspect of it.
Yeah, so I will be excited to see how that goes. Let's let me see here. Let me look at what we've got coming up next. Wandavision is airing tomorrow. So I don't know who's excited for that, but they should be, because I actually had a chance to watch it yesterday, and it was really, really good. I got to watch the first 3 episodes. What do you think, Matt? What are you thinking on it?
I'm really excited. I'm very pumped. Part of it is this is the, since the MCU started, this is by far the longest in between any project, be it a movie or TV show. So it'd be, after getting 1, 2, 3, 4 projects every single year for the last decade or so,
right?
It'll be nice to kind of get back into the groove a little bit. It seems like they'll be coming out swinging, and this clearly looks like nothing they've ever done before. It's very, just out there and maybe a little weird, which I love. They needed to kind of go off the beaten path at some point, and obviously with Wanda and her powers and her abilities and what she can do, this was kind of the perfect time. And I'm really excited for the sitcom references.
Yes.
And I don't know if you can touch on that in an unspoilery way, but whether it's I Love Lucy, or if they do anything meta with Full House with Elizabeth Olsen being Mary-Kate and Ashley's sister,
right?
Or what other sitcoms they go into, even if it's a sitcom that I didn't really watch. If there's I'm sure there's going to be a Bewitched reference in there at some point. I didn't watch Bewitched, but really any show, I'm all in for that kind of crossover event there. Catherine Hahn, I love her. She looks like she's got a really fun character. So I'm really pumped.
Yeah. So I can definitely talk about it absolutely spoiler free. So I won't go into details, but I was able to watch the first 3 episodes. It is 9 episodes long. We actually have a video review of it on Fandom Wire. If you want to go check it out, it's only like about 6 minutes long, but it's pretty good review, I think. So in the first 3 episodes, they're only 30 minutes each. So they stick to like that old school sitcom, time, which is good. And they really go like full into that old school classic TV sitcom scenarios. Like you feel like you're watching a classic sitcom for the majority of these episodes. It's not like they just kind of break into little sitcom moments here and there. Like that's what they commit to, and they do it so good. It really feels like you're watching like a classic old school sitcom. Like I could see this coming on Nick at Night or airing in between I Love Lucy and the Dick Van Dyke Show, and it would have been perfect. They nailed the humor, the wardrobe, the acting, the set design. Even when the way it plays on your screen is the square aspect ratio, like the old school,
Nice.
TV shows. And they commit to it. The humor is perfect, and like you said, Bewitched. They don't do fun little specific like, hey, this is a Bewitched thing. They just kind of go for that vibe of that classic.
Okay.
They really make you feel like it. But Bewitched is definitely the main kind of vibe of a show that they're going for, since that was a husband and a wife, and she has to hide her powers to fit into the neighborhood. They play that same exact kind of humor here, and it is done perfectly. And then they give you little hints that to remind you, like, hey, something darker is going on. So you'll be so committed to this. It feels like I'm watching, a Bewitched episode. And then they'll just give you a little something that's like, hey, there's something's not right. Something dark is happening. And that really pulls in the suspense, because then it takes you out of that, like, just fun sitcom to like, whoa, yeah, something is going on. What is it? And then it raises those suspicions and it builds tension perfectly. It's so good. I can't wait to see the rest of it.
Yeah, that's the part I'm really looking forward to, is because I never believed that they were just going to do the gimmicky sitcom,
right?
Trend for the entire season. That there's something bigger at play. And in the most recent trailer, they showed the beginnings of some action scenes, maybe some military people look like showed up. And so there's obviously something bigger going on. And that's the part, how they're going to tie all that together. And, what's real, what's not, what she just kind of magicking into existence, for lack of a better term. And so how just kind of the larger story is what I'm really looking forward to, because I have no idea. I have no idea where they're going to take this. And
I mean, I have ideas, but it's not based off the 3 episodes. Like they haven't revealed anything. Disney didn't give us that much. They were like, watch enough to get you super interested, but then you have to, wait a little bit. But we know it's linked. Like they've come out and said it's going to be linked directly to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, that Wanda's storyline is going to connect from the show into there. So that alone tells us that, it's going to build into something big. I mean, Doctor Strange's sequel is called In the Multiverse of Madness. There's going to be something crazy going on.
Exactly.
So I'm super excited to see where the next 6 episodes go. And like I said, watch it. It comes out tomorrow, the first 2 episodes. After that, it's going to be a week at a time. Check out our review on Fandom Wire, and we'll probably talk about the episodes on here as they air. So, just come back and we can do breakdowns of each episode, because they're going to be good.
Now, real quick, do you know what time they're dropping? Is it like Mando, where it's going to be first thing in the morning, or are they going to do it at a more reasonable hour?
What I was told is it's going to be at midnight Pacific time. So it's like a few hours from now, maybe like 5 hours. And are you in Pacific time? What time are you?
I'm Central, so it's 7:15 for me.
Okay. So it's a few hours from now. It's going to be pretty much midnight at Pacific time, Pacific Standard Time. So
I'd love to know the reason behind those decisions.
Yeah,
but what can you do? It's Disney.
Yeah. All right. This is something that we just got. New Captain America may return. Have you seen these articles, Matt?
I didn't get a chance to really read too much. Broke when I was at work, and then I didn't get home too much, before we jumped down here. So my hopes on it maybe were confirmed, or at least hinted at. I really don't want them to do an age reversal thing. We go from old man Cap back to regular Steve Rogers, but because it was such a good send off for him at the end of Endgame, and just to undo that, it's like when they bring characters back from the dead. It takes away so much of the impact. But if they were doing a Disney Plus series of his time when he's returning the Infinity Stones, even if it's not focused on the actual return of the stones, but if he goes on any side missions in there, if he sees his time with Peggy, anything like that, that I could be interested in. I don't know that I'd want a full movie about Captain America. Maybe if he jumps in a Captain Marvel sequel, if part of the time he returned it overlaps with her story leading up to the present day, something like that might be fun. But I'm excited depending on how they do it.
So it was Deadline, I believe, who first reported this, and what they say here is that it is not going to be another Captain America movie, that it will be like that, him appearing in another project. They say right now he's in talks for 1, maybe 2, but we don't know what project that could be. Like you said, it could be a series, or it could be just, maybe a what if series, like they have those coming out. It could be through flashbacks or something in another Winter Soldier, Captain America. We don't know. But I agree with you about undoing the closing that we got for those characters. I hate that. I think it's terrible. Right now, like you said, Endgame, I thought ended the storyline of the 2 Avengers leads, Iron Man and Captain America, perfectly.
Yep.
And I would hate for them to say, but you know what? We want more Captain America because he's cool. People like him and that's good money, and undo what they've done. That would be terrible. To me, it was like, I thought the ending to Toy Story 3 was the perfect closing. And then they brought in a Toy Story 4, to bring in Forky and sell some toys? Like, you should have left 3 alone. It was the perfect send-off. That's how I feel.
Yeah. I mean, I maybe sound like a bigger fan of Toy Story 4, but I agree it was unnecessary. I think it didn't need to happen. But I think probably the worst thing, at least for me, that they could do is there's some big conflict that they need Captain America for. So they have to convince him to go through to undergo some procedure to go back to the 30-year-old or whatever he is, and he's got to weigh that decision versus just living out his life. Just do a flashback, do a movie set during the time that overlaps with him returning the stone, something like that, and I think it could work.
No, I agree, and that is something obviously that a lot of fans have mentioned. You could do a whole story about him returning those stones, and that would be cool. That actually would make a good series, 1 episode per stone, and send it out. I think it's unlikely that's what they're doing, but that would be a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, if they're gonna pay him, if they're gonna back the Brinks truck up for him, no fault to Chris Evans for going back to the well on this one.
Dude, he must have made so much money just off of Marvel alone.
Those guys, anyone, especially the main 6, Robert Downey Jr. especially, it's unfathomable the money they've got from that.
And they're gonna keep making money off it, even when they're not in it.
Absolutely.
All right, so the last big thing we have here today, and we have to give a little bit of warning to anybody. If you don't want to pay attention to this, if you want to go away, now's your chance. Fandom Wire got a scoop on the plot for Black Panther 2. So here's your chance. If you want to go in not knowing anything, turn away. If you're still here, you're going to hear what we learned. So the plot supposedly right now is that they are going to give T'Challa a proper death within Black Panther 2, and there's going to be a big ceremony. They're going to make a big deal about it and give him a proper kind of memorial, and then they will have an open kind of call to the people of Wakanda to take over the throne through competition, combat, something. There's going to be multiple people fighting to get that throne and the title of Black Panther and King of Wakanda. And it's ultimately going to be Shuri who wins and becomes the ruler of Wakanda and becomes the new Black Panther. And what a lot of fans have been speculating or wanting to see, Namor supposedly will come in. There will be Atlanteans and Namor who will battle with Wakanda, with Doctor Doom in the background playing as sort of a puppet master, not being the main villain of the movie, but being introduced while Namor and Wakanda go to war. What do you think about that?
I love every word you just spoke right there. Yeah. I mean, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The only thing, I think the balance of the T'Challa memorial to Shuri becoming the new Black Panther to the rest of the movie, how much time they spend on that first part, that establishing part of it. I think that's going to be kind of the key thing to nail down. If they overdo it, it could become stale or like they're trying to milk it. But if they do it too short, and it's like, oh well, what was even the point if you're only going to spend 5 minutes on it? So getting that balance right, and then getting into the main conflict after Shuri takes over, that's going to be kind of the key. But a lot of that, it doesn't really sound all that surprising, even if it was unconfirmed up until now. Everyone pretty much knew Shuri was going to be the next Black Panther. I mean, that was kind of assumed that she would take that role on eventually anyway, even before Chadwick Boseman's untimely passing. But now that time slot just got moved up a little bit, I guess. But the Doctor Doom is what's exciting for me.
Yeah.
Finally get a chance to give him a proper movie, a proper characterization. And I really like, and we've talked about this at least a couple times before, that we didn't want him to be just kind of a one and done villain, that he's in the movie, he gets defeated, he's gone, that he is more not Thanos, but Thanos-like, where his presence will be felt across several movies
and built up
before the ultimate, one or two major conflict with him. And it's interesting that they're not doing it with the Fantastic Four, that they're bringing him in initially with another property. And I don't know the comic lore, if there's Doctor Doom and Black Panther history there that they're pulling from. I think most casual fans just at least know him as a Fantastic Four villain.
Right. And so I have heard some people complain, saying, that Reed Richards and Doctor Doom are so closely linked, they're one and the same, and that they need to be introduced at the same time. But I think the main thing that Marvel is trying to do here is like what they did with Spider-Man. They don't want to do the same thing that has already been done in multiple movies. That's why they skipped Origin, Uncle Ben, and all of that, So we've already gotten, 3 or 4 terrible movies where Doctor Doom fights Fantastic Four. So I think they're just saying, let's separate ourselves from that. Let's bring in Doctor Doom. And Doctor Doom does have a really close connection to Black Panther and Wakanda in the comics. He's had a lot of interactions, and Black Panther was introduced in a Fantastic Four comic, so I think that's also kind of a little wink. Black Panther came in and fought the Fantastic Four, and that was when the first time we saw Wakanda and Black Panther and all that. So I think that is the reason they're going to do it, to kind of create a separation. And since he's going to be like a big bad and face off against the Avengers and stuff, I think they kind of want to separate him to where he's not just a Fantastic Four villain. And then like what you were saying about creating the proper ratio from the ceremonial, death of T'Challa and everything. From what else we've heard is that they're pretty much they had the script written with T'Challa in mind for Black Panther 2, and that they have pretty much kept most of that script. They just went in and retweaked some of it. So the plan was always for them to battle Namor. So I would imagine that the Shuri taking over isn't going to be dominating of it, because that's kind of something they had to adjust the script to make that happen. So I think they will hopefully give it just that amount, like you said, where it's enough that it feels right and it's not rushed and they're not just brushing over it. But I don't think they're going to milk it, at least hopefully.
No, that sounds like good news. That I wasn't sure on the script and how much work they'd have to redo on it, if they can more or less just take the Black Panther T'Challa part and just insert Shuri into there, obviously with some tweaks for dialogue or what they're saying or doing.
Right.
But, if T'Challa is the one fighting Namor, they just kind of insert Shuri into there for the fight scene, something like that. Then it maybe would be a little easier, and maybe add 15, 20 minutes to begin in the movie to establish the initial setup for it.
And I think that this is going to be a big movie, because Black Panther was a huge movie. And I know, a lot of people are saying, well, you can't do it without, T'Challa, but you can. And they have to. We have to do something with that part of the lore. It's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And T'Challa wasn't the only Black Panther in the comics. He wasn't even the only Black Panther in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They showed, the Black Panthers before him. So you can have Black Panther without T'Challa. Obviously, it's not ideal. It's not what we would have liked, but things don't, go as life plans a lot of times.
Yeah, I think it would have been way worse to just shut the franchise down.
Right. Or to have tried to use the facial thing or recast. It wouldn't have worked. Yeah. They recasted Hulk and people just forgot about Edward Norton for the most part, and that's okay. They recasted, War Machine, and that's okay. But T'Challa, he was such an iconic character, and Chadwick Boseman did the role so perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like recasting Iron Man. You can't. He was T'Challa.
Yep.
He was perfect.
Exactly. Yep.
So, all right. Do you have anything else to add to that?
I don't think so. I think I'm good on Black Panther.
All right. Then we will move on and see if you have any recommendations for us, Matt, because I have been a fan of your recommendations so far. I've watched a lot of the things you've recommended. I finished The Flight Attendant. I thought the first half was really good. Second half, I thought it went down a little bit.
I thought the same. It did kind of tail off a little bit. The first half was just absurdly entertaining.
Yeah.
Just fun television. And it got a little too
when it got into the spy, the spy
the whole conspiracy thing.
Yeah.
It was still fine. But
right.
The first few episodes are just so much fun.
But I watched Shithouse. I really liked that. And I'm actually going this weekend to see Promising Young Woman.
Well, that's a perfect unplanned transition because that is my recommendation.
Oh, nice.
Going back to the well on that because it is now available to rent. So as of today, if theaters are still closed or you're still wary of going to the theater right now, makes sense on that front. It is available on demand. It is a premium rental, so it is $20, but it's worth it. And then some. It's fantastic. Carey Mulligan is astonishing in the lead role. Emerald Fennell, can't believe this is a directorial debut. And
right.
It's unfortunately very relevant to today's society and culture. And it's got razor sharp commentary on that front. I've talked about this a couple of times now already, so I won't spend too much time on it, but it's great. It's finished as my number one movie of last year, and without question, it was wasn't much of a debate on that front. So it's only a couple hours long, so it's not that much of a time commitment. Whenever you've got time, this weekend, just put it on. It's incredible.
Now this is one that I wanted to see in theaters. So I have a theater that's maybe 40 minutes from me, none in my county, and I was planning on making the trip up there to watch it in theaters. I've had my daughter; she's only 12. I obviously don't want to take her to that movie. So this weekend, I'm going to have a little bit of free time. So I'm gonna shoot up there and watch it, and I'm super excited. And I will be letting you know what I thought about it as soon as I find out.
Perfect. I will say, lastly, just for anyone wanting to go see it, it's not necessarily a movie that you have to see on the big screen. So like a movie like Dune is going to play a lot better on the big screen than at home. This one, you shouldn't lose much, if any, of the experience if you decide to watch at home versus going to a theater.
Yeah. And I heard Warner Brothers was actually contemplating making Dune straight to only theaters. Like they had said it was going to go both, but now they're saying they might just go theaters with it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on that front.
Yeah. Let me pull up this comment real quick because George is asking, what about putting Netflix characters in the movies? They haven't confirmed anything. A lot of speculation, though. A lot of what people are saying this would make sense has come out to be what Marvel's doing. I think that they know what they're doing and they're listening to the fans. They know what the fans want. And they've so far been pretty good at taking that and weaving it into a good story. So I think the most likely to see soon would be Charlie Cox as Daredevil. I think that there is a good chance that he could make an appearance, which I've heard it's been rumored, in the Spider-Man 3 movie. So that would be super exciting. And of course, the role that you would think he would play is possibly as Spider-Man's attorney, because at the end of the last Spider-Man movie, Far From Home, they revealed who he was. Mysterio revealed who he was and accused him of crimes and all this. So what do you think, Matt? You think it's just a fan dream, or you think they're going to do it?
I'd say right now I'd be leaning towards just a fan dream, but I just read a comment from Feige that he said something like, well, don't count anything out, or you never know, something vague like that, but he didn't shut it down. And I think the tough part is that, there's such a divide on how those shows were received. Daredevil, people seem to like up and down the board. The first season, Jessica Jones seemed to go over pretty well. Yeah. Iron Fist and Luke Cage were more mixed.
And I liked Luke Cage, but yeah, it wasn't. Iron Fist was obviously.
And obviously it's a business. They're not going to say, oh, we don't want to piss off this person, that person by bringing back 2 of the 4. But it does, muddy the waters a little bit in terms of if they want to bring in Luke Cage down the road, do they recast him? Do they bring in Mike Coulter again? with or without bringing in Charlie Cox as Daredevil. And like you said, they've recast roles before. Wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last time. But it might add a little bit of confusion or uncertainty to what they want to do. But I would bet like a Daredevil, or I know one people want is Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
He owned that role.
Right.
So that'd be that'd be probably my number one choice in what I want to see, at least, would be D'Onofrio in.
And it would be awesome to see him in Spider-Man,
Yep.
But I would love to have the Punisher in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's my favorite character. I thought John Bernthal was awesome in this. I absolutely loved the show. I thought that was the first time they got that character perfect. The movies have been entertaining, but not super accurate, not super good. And then he just dominated that role. Now, obviously, that's not super MCU friendly, but yeah, I mean, you never, and I think they could get away with doing him PG-13. They really could. I mean, they show a little bit of blood. You don't have to have the blood spilling out like they did, in the show, but people are now saying, people are saying since Deadpool is going to be R-rated, they want Blade R-rated, and I feel the same way. Blade can be PG-13. You don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, they know how to get talent, and they can make it work one way or the other. But I think with the Punisher, he might be better fit for a Disney Plus series or as like a side character. I don't know how well he'd work carrying his own movie or franchise in the MCU.
Right.
But, we'll see.
I agree. Even if he didn't have like his own, movie or something, I think it'd be sweet to have him just in there somewhere. I'd be excited about it, but I don't think that that's going to happen. So my recommendation, I know we already talked about it, but I'm just going to go ahead and recommend, since it's been all Marvel news, WandaVision, because it's launching, like I said, in a matter of hours. It's launching January 15th on Disney Plus, the first 2 episodes, and they are just that good, especially if you are a fan of that, old sitcom style of classic television, then you're going to love it. Some people, I feel like, might be like, this isn't what I want. This isn't, I want to see Wanda fighting, Thanos and all this other stuff. And that's not what it is, at least not in the beginning. We don't know where it's going to go. So it's very different. It's the most different thing they've ever done. And I really dug it. So that's my recommendation.
Perfect.
All right, Matt, do you have anything to close us out on?
I've got one. It's a little more out there. One more I can finish with quickly here.
What you got?
It's not new anymore, but it's probably new to a lot of people. It's a YouTube series from Barstool Sports. It's a fictional debate series, and they put it out in kind of the height of quarantine when they were just kind of trying to think up whatever new content they could. And it is some of the absolute funniest stuff you will ever hear. It's ridiculous. So what they do is they've got 7 people on the panel from a few of their different podcasts, and they make up basketball teams of whatever they want. Each team's they make up their own theme. I don't even want to give away that, because sometimes that's the joke. But for example, one is cereal mascots, and so they'll give their stats. They'll match them up against the other team. Then they just talk about it, and it's the simplest, stupidest thing on paper, but some of the jokes on there, still this is 6 months now, 5 months, still get referenced on Twitter, on Reddit, on the podcast if you listen to them. It's not going to be for everybody like humor is, but this one really isn't. But if this hits your sweet spot, you're gonna love it. You're gonna cruise through them. I think there's 8 episodes only. They have to end a little early due to some behind the scenes stuff, but we won't get into that, of course. But they're only about an hour long, and they're just incredible.
What did you say it was called?
If you just go to YouTube and just search Barstool Fictional Debates, it'll pop up.
Nice.
And they got a playlist ready with all 8 or 9, however many there are, and it's absurd. It's so funny.
That's interesting, because we were talking before about how YouTube isn't typically where people go for original, content, like scripted stuff, which this is scripted, I'm guessing.
Not really, because that's part of those are some of the funniest moments, is like the team reveal, because only the people who make the graphics know who's on what team.
Oh, okay.
And so there are some times where the host, Jeff D. Lowe from their Lights Camera Barstool podcast, also a great one, he'll start just like crying, laughing before he gets a name out. So everyone kind of sits up in their chair, kind of ready for what's to come. And sometimes you see the guy whose team it is kind of like giggling in the background. And the reaction to the players is usually the best part. It's one of the most unique pieces of content I've seen in a long time, and they're rewatchable too. It's high recommend. They're incredible.
All right. Well, that sounds good. I will be watching that because I get bored a lot of times and need something to watch throughout my days when I'm supposed to be doing more important things.
It's going to be one where if you don't love it, you're either going to love it or not. There's really no, this was okay. It's either end, and you'll know pretty quick.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the recommendation. So, Matt, if people wanted to follow you, where could they do so?
Twitter and Instagram at Matt Hambidge.
Awesome. I am also on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. Movie Guy 86. And that is it for this episode of Inside Fandom. We will be back next week, the same time, Thursday, for more great news. We'll see you then.